Well, we continue on the Lacrosse preview show today. Glenn Clark Radio, Patrick Stevens here, and joining us now here in studio is the head coach of the Towson Tigers. They open up the season Tuesday afternoon at Johns Hopkins. He is Coach Shawn Nadelen. Good to see you, Coach. Thanks for coming in and hanging out with us.
Absolutely. My pleasure. It means lacrosse season's here.
No doubt about it. I know that last year you got off to a tough start, clearly. But there was a lot of good after that point, right? Like, can you kind of walk me through what happened, what turned, and how you guys might be able to build off of the second half of the season as you go into this year?
Sure. Yeah. We have a tough schedule, from start to finish, and we had some growing pains, and which is part of a season. Sometimes you got a veteran group and things are clicking right from the start. That really wasn't us last year. By the end of the season, we started 3 freshmen, on our offensive end. So there was some learning curve there. We had guys, our first midfield, truth be told, through our non-conference schedule, kind of struggled for production. We were relying on kind of our second midfield, and at that time we were like, well, our seconds are first, our first are seconds. And we had some ebbs and flows on the defensive end. We had some strong outings, and then we had some tough outings where we just didn't get consistent play. So again, it's that's the beauty of being able to play a season, continuing to come to work every day and practice and understand what we need to do to get better and recognize our strengths and recognize areas of improvement. And things started to fall together in conference play, and our guys kind of figured out who we were, what helps us be successful, and guys started making, plays more consistently.
You mentioned the defensive end maybe being up and down a little bit, but it seemed like that group kind of evened itself out on a more consistent basis throughout. And I know Colby Bars made a fantastic adjustment from pole to close defense. How did that group, you feel like, develop, and how strong do you think that's going to be for you this spring?
We were a more veteran defensive group last year, returning starters with Garrett Zingale, Colby, still going from pole to close, Reagan McNamara, Evan Long was new in cage, and we were bouncing back and forth with him at times and putting in a backup. And then defensive midfield, we had some consistency with Brandon Hunt and Jordan Hayes and Reese Potter, guys like that. So there was definitely some more familiarity, and that allowed us to have some consistency on the defensive end. We lost quite a few of those guys, coming into this year. 2 starters at close defense graduate, 2 D-middies graduate, goalie graduate. So that's kind of where we are right now, is continuing to evaluate. Colby's still a mainstay for us on the close defensive end. Sam Morin at the long stick midi. Sam had a really strong year last year, continuing to play well up there. But beyond that, there's a lot of inexperience. We got guys, but again, it's getting them experience, getting them, understanding what it really takes to be successful possession by possession and working together.
Let's dive into one of those positions that looks really inexperienced at the college level anyway, and that's in the goal. I know Luke Downs started the game for you last year, but that seems like a situation where there's probably going to be some patience required, and maybe even some flux even right now as you're a week or so from your opener.
Yeah, going into kind of preseason, and as that started to unfold heading into our scrimmages, there were really 3 guys in the goalie position that emerged as kind of the top guys that we wanted to continue to take a strong look at, because they earned opportunities. And Luke's one of those guys. With his experience, I feel like he's done a good job being a leader within our goalie group and playing pretty well. Matt Nyland and Kaufman has been doing a great job as well. So those guys are all battling and doing a great job, trying to solidify that position. Sometimes it's tough when you have guys competing and you're not really, one's not really taking the reins. So people say sometimes if you got 3 goalies, you really don't have any goalies. So, but I think we got 3 good ones, and it gives us options if we go with one guy and he's doing really well. We know we got a good one, and if not, then we might have to go to another guy that's got some proven opportunity.
Coach Shawn Nadelen's in studio with us. I was just going to ask, like, are you the type, I need to have a goalie on Tuesday, that's my guy, or can that continue and you play a half and continue this into the season?
I mean, we evaluate every position all the time. So if we get a guy, yeah, it definitely helps, especially at the goalie position. But we're not, we're not apprehensive about playing a couple guys if we need to. When 2017 we go to the Final Four, we ended up, going back and forth between starters throughout the regular season and into conference play. Then midway through conference play, Matt Hoy really solidified the starting spot, and he took us to Memorial Day weekend. So it's really, it's a neat thing within our team to see it be so competitive, and those guys understand they have a role to play, and if it's their opportunity, they're going to do it to their best ability. But if somebody else takes it, then they're going to be the best teammate they can as well.
One area where you do have stability is at the faceoff dot, and Matt easy for me to say, Constantinides took a real step up for you guys last season, percentage-wise. What did you see from him? Was it just another year, more growth, and that was that? And how much comfort does it give you to have such stability at an important spot on the field?
Yeah, Matt earned, kind of the top spot as the faceoff guy midway through his freshman year, came back sophomore year and really continued to evolve, ran in against, some really tough competition, at the X with the opponents we faced. So it really gave him a lot more experience and allowed him to settle down. I probably did a little bit of a disservice throughout Matt because I really leaned on him throughout the season. He was playing well. But again, taking as many faceoffs as he did against really tough competition, I think it kind of wore him down towards the end of our conference play, and you could see it with him. So we're doing our best to mitigate that, and we have some other really nice options with Rocco Moreno and a couple other younger guys to kind of help Matt out and maybe not put as much pressure on him, but he's continuing to play really well, and we got Rocco backing him up as well.
You mentioned last year there was a lot of uncertainty at the offensive end. This year, probably a few more knowns at this point. Obviously, Nick DeMeo still around, Joaquin Villagomez as well. How's the attack and midfield units looking, and do you feel like that's going to be a group that maybe is a little further ahead of that younger defense or less tested defense, at least this time around?
Yeah, it's interesting on the offensive end. Where on paper we return quite a few, but again, those guys last year were freshmen, so it's not like we returned juniors and seniors that have started. We do with Nick, guy like Chop Gallagher, who's played quite a bit for us as well. Josh Weber. Those are kind of the three veteran guys that have got a lot of experience that'll be back, and doing good things for us. Joaquin's still growing and learning the game. Guys like Ryan Schreier, Mikey Weishauer, those three next guys are really learning and moving into kind of their roles even more. Talented, but again, just trying to figure out for us what's the best combination, for those guys, being, whether it be at attack or midfield, and, how do those guys kind of work together.
Speaking of offense, one of the newcomers to your group, a freshman named Ethan Pearson from Colorado, was a big-time goal scorer, was one of the top recruits in the country. I guess, walk me through, how you got connected with this young man, how he ended up coming here from Colorado, and how quickly he might be able to step in and make an impact.
Yeah, Ethan definitely was a bit of a man among boys coming out of high school. He's got a great frame to him, good size, good build. You can definitely get a shot off on the run, physical dodger. Came into the fall looking good, but as we put more pieces into place, I think the game, at the Division I level is a little bit faster.
Sure.
So he's still learning and picking things up. So his learning curve is a little bit bigger right now. So seeing him on the field right now is most likely not going to happen.
Okay.
But we can definitely see a lot of promise in him, and he's got a heavy shot and not afraid to get it. So he's practicing hard.
Kind of a big picture sport type question. This is the last year where you have a big class of guys that was in school when the pandemic hit, and it obviously has altered a lot of things in the world. But in college lacrosse, what it's been is it's added a roster construction element that's different. What do you feel like are going to be kind of the legacies of this sort of weird COVID era, and is it going to make life easier in some ways to kind of get back to kind of what would be whatever the new normal is, essentially? Obviously, there's other variables in play throughout college sports, but getting it to at least where the roster element is back to sort of what you were used to before.
Yeah, I think the consistency on the roster is going to be, just from my perspective, a little bit more normal. We don't have many fifth years this year. Last year we did. So again, just recognizing, sometimes you lose track of what year guys are, with COVID and everything. But now we'll get back to that, a little bit more normalcy. Yeah, with the senior class being freshmen, coming out of the heels of 2020. I remember having to go pick up Austin Dukeman from the airport because he's from Canada and his mom couldn't fly in. Me and Coach Musey moving him into his dorm, first time on campus. And our student athletes were the only ones allowed to live on campus. So it's just, again, their transition and kind of what they've had to experience and stuff has definitely been unique. But they're a very strong group, a very tight-knit group. And you could see that, that first week they were on campus. We had them over to our house for a barbecue, and they were like, it was like they were fifth year seniors. Just how tight knit they were. They're busting each other's chops and everything. So I think for those guys, being able to fall back on that experience, recognize the connectivity that needs to happen, and to allow that to manifest as they're going into their senior year here.
All right, before we let you go, Coach, the question we of course have had to ask everybody this morning: replay. Have you gotten a system yet for like how you're going to handle this? Who orders the code red? Like, have you worked through what this is going to look like with the scrimmages so far?
We haven't had any scrimmages where we've used it.
Okay.
We most likely won't use it at Towson this year.
Okay.
We'll have it ready. If we visit a team and they're using it and stuff. So not really repping against it. It'll be a little unique. Again, it really comes down to the system.
Was that by choice that you're not going to use it at Towson this year?
Yeah, it's just the equipment and the functionality of everything, and
okay.
And I think that's going to be place to place. If it's a really ESPN broadcast game or something,
yep.
You got multiple camera angles and in tight. But a lot of institutions, they're shooting. You've been to United Stadium.
Yep.
You got one camera shooting from the top of the press box. We talked to the refs about it before a scrimmage last weekend. They're like, look, we're probably not going to see much from that anyway. So, is it really worth potentially burning a timeout, by throwing a challenge flag if you have the red flag in your pocket and being able to get that going. But, for us, it's just, we don't think it's feasible at this point.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Shawn Nadelen, season gets underway Tuesday at Johns Hopkins as Towson looks to get back to CAA championship level. Always appreciate you taking the time for us. Thanks for coming in and hanging out with us this morning. Sorry about your bills. A lot of commiserating, I think, going on with some folks.
Tough time of year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Thank you so much for coming in and hanging out with us. We really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, guys.